All right, guys, I promise I will be quick. So one of the things that they asked us was to incorporate AI into our speeches. So I actually had AI write my speech. Thank you. I'm just joking. Thank you so much for having us here today. I wanted to publicly thank my best friend, Gary Shapley, for not allowing me to go through this process alone. To all those individuals, members of Congress, our attorneys who supported us and provided us help all along through this emotional process, thank you. I want to bring up, I didn't have this written in my speech, but one thing really caught my attention. There's the talk of that you want to be very neutral, very in the middle. And that was the thing that Gary and I wanted to do, is be very middle with what we were coming forward with. This was our truth, this was our honesty that we were coming forward with. And what was so frustrating to me was one side wanted to hear our story while the other side wanted to bash us and defame us and do whatever they could to make sure that our story didn't get out, because it didn't fit their agenda. It didn't fit what they wanted to do. We need to move past that. Like, we need to call some of these people out so that doesn't continue to keep happening. So getting back to, I wanted to start by reading something for all of you. Good morning, babe. You're gonna kill it today. That text message jolted Joe out of his sleep. When he opened his eyes, he saw off-white ceiling of the hotel room. It took a few seconds for him to shake himself awake and remember that he wasn't home in Atlanta. He was in his hotel room in Washington, D.C., about a mile away from the Capitol building. And he was there alone. David decided to go on vacation to Portugal for a few weeks, mostly so he wouldn't be there the moment Joe revealed his identity. As Joe got out of bed and stepped into the shower, he tried not to think about the fact that his marriage was on the rocks. He also wondered, as he had so many times over the past few months, whether the decision to blow the whistle, whether the decision to come and testify had been the right one. There was no denying that it felt right, but there were plenty of arguments he could make against it. For one thing, there was a lot of crazy people in the world. One that might decide that Joe's testimony made him or her angry and come to his house and kill him. That was an extreme example, of course, but it wasn't like similar things hadn't happened in the past. Just a few years earlier, Joe had been robbed at gunpoint right in front of his house. At the end of 2022, some psychos on the internet had posted an image of his driver's license along with a bunch of other identifying information. So what was that? That was an excerpt from a book that Gary and I have written called The Whistleblowers versus the Big Guy. We feel that bringing attention to the whistleblower process is very important and that we need to continue to beat the drum in advocating for better policies and laws protecting whistleblowers. That is why all the proceeds from our book are going to a nonprofit supporting current and future whistleblowers in their fight to speak the truth. For anyone who has gone through the process of blowing the whistle, some of what I said might have really hit home to you. There are so many people who have become whistleblowers, but there are a few people who take the next step and try to advocate and help them. Whistleblowers play a vital role in our society, shining a light on the darkest corners, risking personal reprisal for the greater good. But how do we become better? How do we do better? How do we ensure that whistleblowers are adequately supported? Not by having discussions about it, but by actually doing something. It's with our actions. Gary and I were recently promoted as senior advisors to Secretary of Treasury, and one of the items we were tasked with was reform at the IRS and reforming the whistleblower process, both internally and externally to the IRS. We are working closely with the Secretary's office to create policy and procedures that make sense so that whistleblowers in the future at the IRS don't have to endure what Gary and I went through. We're going to work with our congressional leaders to ensure that the IRS is following the statutes and treating each and every whistleblower fairly. One thing so everyone, best whistleblower, they did the best job. So we actually had 2 congressmen that said to Gary and I that we were the best whistleblowers that they had ever experienced coming in front of their committees, ever. And to hear that from him was shocking first, but we also knew when we came forward to Congress, we not only came forward with our testimony, but we came forward with the receipts that supported what we were saying. And I think Gary and I could write a roadmap for people on how you get this done. So I'm going to leave you with a quote to end this. Whistleblowing is not about betrayal. It's about bravery. Speaking the truth, even when it costs you, is how justice begins and how silence ends. So I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much.